가상 거래스
이를 근데 난 주주량을 줘봐. 이 정부님은 좀 다른 말 근데 그들을 말 강치는 니네 집에 딱 대님이 내줘내서 줘봐.
다디지 다디 디 강기치를 강진이 집에 딱 세딩이 취지다 가사를 다니고디 집에 수수기는 게 아니 가사를 다다 취지다 다 말해봐 저선 딩이니 집안남 기딱스지 디 님이 내줄네서 디 가사기 다 내버다 디 로초 가사기 다 내버다 취기 다 내버 이부티 내줘반남기 딜라 아니 내줘반남 딜라 지지도 내버리스 다다 내줘반남기다 간지 집에 시엠베 따르 다다 다기와 내가 신기해 봤지 신내 신발이 세야 내줘 내세야
And we are on the verse 65. Last night we we are looking at verse 65. Last night we have talked about the first two lines of that verse. And now Geshe-la just explains the two last lines of that verse. The immature impute the two kinds of self, and the yogis and the yoginis abide without these two. And these two lines are basically talking about the different qualities of the ordinary being and the yogis or yoginis, the extraordinary individuals. So the immature child or the ordinary beings, we really hold on to the grasping of the two selves, the self of a person and the self of a phenomena. We are kind of holding rigidly to these two selves, whereas the extraordinary beings, here the translation and use the word yogis and yoginis, and these the yogis and yoginis, the practitioners, really opposite to the ordinary being. They really do not see the self of the person and the self of the phenomena, and these are the kind of the differences between the ordinary beings and the yogis, the different qualities.
다니 매버도베 아니 이실에 매버거네 아니 안지 버팅부터 돌아리스 다지 이게 돌자지인바 어디 이게 그네 단지 제대로지 추동만 제거나 시제되네 아니 조마들네 추디파 돌아르면 돌야지 다디니 딘지 다도 추기 다도 가자리 다도 짐바티 다디 수수기우비 딘진바리스 친주로 던진바리 저선 뒤돌아와리스 도체티 다디 도주디 간데데스는 내니주가 남기 딩이 다음에 또베네 다음에 또베네 뒤돌아리스 저선 내주비 시디다 렌야디 도리야디 다니 부티제 짐바치디로 녀부티 다디 이시디 줄 내야기 이시디 담이도 가사리다데 주기 담에 버도스네 오늘 다른 신경에 버도 디와라 신경에 버도 내주베 내가 또배 거네 또 봐봐 다들 내야지 시들이 봐
So here basically we talked about what we should really remove and what we should cherish in terms of the qualities in our mind stream. And so the ordinary beings or the immature child, they hold onto the self of the person and the phenomena. As a result, they are called immature. On the other hand, the yogis and the yoginis really sees the true nature of the phenomena, and therefore their practice on the wisdom of emptiness. The wisdom of the emptiness is meditating on the selflessness of a person and the selflessness of a phenomena. When they realized that true selflessness, then they are considered yogi because they are no longer holding into mistaken views. So that's where they are called yogis and yoginis, and they're different from the immature child because they no longer have that grasping aspect of the mind. They do not have that mistaken views of the true selflessness. So you remember that we talked about really discerning or selecting what we should remove from our mind stream and what we should cherish. So in terms of meditating on selflessness of a person and the Dharma, we're talking about removing the waters. When there's a water and milk mixed in the same container, and the cranes, what they do is they take the milk and leave the water. So for our purpose, by really removing the self of the person and the self of the phenomena, and we're removing the water, and then what we cherish is the realizing that wisdom. The wisdom is seeing the selflessness of a person and the phenomena. And so this is the one we really keep or cherish, lama. And so the yogis are able to do that. That's why they're called extraordinary beings or yogis. And because the yogis are able to meditate on the selflessness of the person and the phenomena, and therefore they're free from that grasping aspect of the mind. And so for our purpose, it's really important that we practice and meditate on the selflessness of the true subject, the person and the phenomena. And this is the kind of the meditating on that selflessness and that wisdom we should be cherishing every day.
다때네 자가디 감 개버지바 다감 개버지바 감 개버지바 취들에 가지 나도 진보당 수림 심제 되던 심제 퍼진 저거디 송고디니 상계 있고 강제 있고 딱 감세는 들이 지는 감세디 이게 감세디 심제는 감세제와 신내리세요. 개인적으로 신이와 상계 수교론들라 상계 수교론들 상계 수교론들이 리스제 다 상계 수교론들이 이야기 추구교론들 당신내리서 수구교론들 아니 개인적으로 신이 여러분 다연서 감세들이 감세들이르시게 다 개버지 계지들 가리여래서는 계지들 아니 담보디 아니 가주 나서 진보당스다 진보스제 가주 나서 세제 가외 주 전주 선반는지 우당 강나라 소바 동안여러 진바 진배들 가주에서 가와주바스 가을에 Jimbati Chitasang Singi Jimbachi, Chuji Jimbachi, Minji by Kevchi Jimbas, in this Jimbasum Yerbati, a Sang Singi Jimbatilla, Lu down, Lonju down here. Just a Lu down at it. Gota, Kala Supatama Yerba, or Dias of Kaju, Nato Jimbatans. The Nato Bachier is subject to Jessica Juba, Jimbalo looked at them, put a Puma Chuna, Notana Jishinda Tansier, Linji Janju Chitums, the Layer of Tusugang Chestata, the Chimbati Kaju Nato Chimbatans. The come said it. Dimba come gave it to us, come said read the diet, gave it to you. Read the Agona compared to Donna and San you want to Yerba. Read the come the gave it, Jeji dilla, and that Chimbala Supertanti soon teach
So next is the verse 66. Can you please read it so everyone can be more?
The living one endures the range of our hearts, and ethics gathers the benefit of beings. With patience one performs the good of all. History recalls the potential to the full.
So in this verse, basically Nagarjuna is talking about how do we really trigger, promote that quality in our mind, which really promotes this wisdom. Do you remember we talked about that our mind has the potential to really purify and have these wonderful qualities. And then how do we really promote that wonderfulness, the quality of our mind? And how do we do that? And we talked about there are two aspects of the enlightenment in attaining the Dharmakaya and then the attaining the form body. Is it Rupakaya or Rupakaya, right? Attaining the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya. And to do that, we have to do two things. We have to meditate on wisdom emptiness for the Dharmakaya part of it. Then we have to really generate merit to create the right causes for Rupakaya. And so here Nagarjuna is talking about having meditated on the true selflessness. What else do we need to do? We also need to really generate amazing amount of merit and so on. And how do we do that? And we do that by really practicing generosity, practicing the discipline, and so on. And in the first line is saying, in giving one endures a range of hard, really practicing generosity, we have to take a hardship. Now, this is because practicing generosity is not simple, easy. The past Buddhas and Bodhisattvas really took a lot of the hardship to gain that quality of, like totally being able to stay in the realm of the generous mind. And what they did is where they engaged in the practice of perfection of generosity. And you know that there are three types of generosity. One is the giving material, as Samsingi Jimba. And then the second is giving Dharma teaching. And the third one is protecting, giving shelter, giving protection, and so on. So the hardship of giving is basically talking about when you engage in the practice of giving material, you sometimes give even your own bodies and so on. The past Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they have been, practicing giving, including their precious, bodies and so on, to really cherish and to promote that wonderfulness of the qualities that is in the realm of our Dharmadhatu.
Chukim Simje Dindu Dang Sidita 추중들이 숨이야리 그래서 감 개버 집에 추중들이 아니 그래서 그래 내주 돈배 추중지 미그 주본 그 추중도 수 내주 돈 추중지 아니 심지어 전지 추중스 아니 개와 추중 추중스 추중 넘버 순지 어도 술로야 또 수다 감 개버 집에 탑들이다 저서 추중 세트라 내주 돈배 추중세 하나 좀 미그 주본 추중 들어와 개화치도 그 수령세야 등하는 개화나지네 강한 투수 그게 될 개화치도 주름스게 답변 개화인다 개화치도 주름스 그런 부분이야 아니 파진 줄로부터 소리 진소 파진 줄로부터 개화치도 주름스 아니 심지어 던지고 주름스 심지어 던지 니 가와 가르쳐비네 심지어 던지고 주름스 심지어 던지고 주름스 심지어 던지 짐바다나인다 가르도수 심지어 던지고 주름난 저서 주름난 숨세야 되지 주름세야 돼
So, having just talked about how do we engage in the practice of generosity, really to promote that calm, the nature of the innate nature of that Dharmadhatu, we engage in the practice of generosity, and then we engage in the practice of the discipline, or sometimes they call the commitment. So in the practice of a discipline or the commitment, there are three sections. The first one is the Nijidambe Tujim, which is to really refrain from engaging in negative actions, including observing the 10 virtuous deeds. Basically, this aspect of the practicing discipline is really preventing us accumulate further negative deeds. And the second is Gyawa Chudu Tsudim, in which engaging in virtuous deeds, engaging in the positive actions that will gather virtuous merits and so on, in which like we're practicing the 6 perfections, practicing Dharma, practicing generosity and so on, and really kind of putting your mind to really engage in virtuous or wholesome action. And that really gathers merits, and that's really aids your enlightenment. The third one is Simje Tunjig Tsujim, is a vow to take care of sentient beings, to really accomplishing the interest of the sentient beings. That's the third one, in which we can maybe giving giving alms or like giving materials purely to fulfill the need of the sentient being. Maybe perhaps it's better to translate it as fulfilling the needs of the sentient beings. And you really created the intention, whatever the wholesome action that you are about to engage. First, you really set the intention. I wanted to do this purely to benefit the sentient beings. Say, I'm going to give this, maybe $1 or something, and purely to benefit the other sentient beings. With this kind of a cultivation, then you're engaging in the fulfilling the needs of the sentient beings. That's as part of the discipline, because you made a pledge saying, first, as part of the practice and discipline, I'm going to refrain myself from negative deeds. Second, I'm going to engage in positive deeds. Third, I'm going to fulfill the need of the sentient beings. This is what discipline is about.
자와 상부터 지전에 심지 되지 좀 쓰기야 기다.
So when we talk about the engaging in wholesome action, in which we talk about the practicing generosity and so on, and then the fulfilling the needs of the sentient being, basically we are talking about really engaging in actions, and that really help, promote, and also really to fulfill the needs of the sentient beings. In the first the section where you're engaging in wholesome action, any wholesome, the positive deeds will belong to that the section.
다음에 세바들 안내질임 지민이 됐어서 되는 게 내가 지체서는 일바라 동네 마제베체 서바군이야 내질이 지민이 됐어서 되네 그래서 동네 당는 게 있어서 최를 강에 만들 체리에 봐 강에 만들 체리에 지다는 그 대상 두스 강에 만들 체리에 봐 강에 만들 체리에 강에 두스 동네 지야지 동네 지야지 이거 이제 레닌 데부스에 교통이 경험도 좀 지미로서 르는 아저씨 중에 아니 디 레닌 베테부지 세수 삼버지 양 디기 생기 샬렛 라는 강에 쳐야 디나시 심지 바tum에 갈 강에 바tum 그래야 되네 디그 추버쇼스제 제비는 도수동에 당는 게 있어서 아니 경을 남도 줄알이 국경은 같이 주인도 출려야 줄을 봐 어디 인상 어디 동행이 당는 게 있어서 어떻게 준비인 말이야 좀 강에 만부지 태인도 좀 말씀 쉬운지 되어있는 강에 세투야 말이야 단도 강에 주태용 봐 단도 어디 야부중송 내래니 메테고 세송 니 심제기지 강에도 승연디 그쳐보시오 생절이 뜻도 강하면 좀 쉬었어 동네 구매할 때 제리는 어디 동네 당는 거 써봤어요 어디 수술 공부 잡고 지켜서네 딜람을 그래야 돼요 지는 대자 잡고 지켜서네 딜람을 그래야 해요 동네 담바지 잡아지 전에 딜람을 그래야 해 어디에서 이 동네 당는 거 쓰게 어디 뒤에 아니 저런 생각 쓰었지 숨이야 어디서 공부도 쓰다 감계지 감계지는 누구야 감계버지라 탑
Sorry, I'm checking a dictionary, not reading email. Last time. But are you checking your email? It's like, yeah, the things you study ba. Once someone yeah, the logged in or something. Are you checking your email? So, as part of the increasing or promoting that wonderful nature of our Dharmadhatu, we have to engage in the practices of generosity and so on, the perfection. We just talked about engaging the practices of a discipline. So if we talk about engaging the practices of the perfection of patience, this is very important. It's really important for our kind of practice, because the practicing the patience is really the key practices which really transforms all the obstacles into the path, and you can do amazing things with these practices. You remember that when we talk about the practice of the patiences, we talk about first really accept not to be overwhelmed by the harm. The first, the session of the really overcoming, not to be totally subdued by the harms. Like we often get obstacles, like people harming us or something, and then it easily overwhelms us. So the first session of the practice in patience is really to face to that harm, to challenge that harm. And then not only that, turn that harm into your path and make it the most kind of powerful practices. And how do we do that? And as mentioned in the Guru Puja by Penshin Lobsang Chögyé, that when I face, a lot of hardships, when I face a lot of obstacles, when I face a lot of harms, may I able to transform these into my path. And so what he's also talking here is about practicing when the harms, the obstacles come to your way, you really, first of all, not to be overwhelmed by these harms. But secondly, really to turn this harm into your practices. How do we do that? It's called the Gingen Lamki, the taking the obstacles into path. Let's say that when you engaging in a tremendous suffering, such as illness and so on, first you say, may this suffering really kind of purifies all the negative deeds that I have generated for many years, for many lives. May this very suffering become the causes for me to purify whatever the negative deeds that I have generated in the past. Through thinking that this very suffering is really becoming a kind of asset to purifying your negative deeds. And secondly, you also pray that may this suffering also may this suffering also kind of be the sufferings of all the sentient beings who generated a negative and an unwholesome deeds in the past. And by experiencing these sufferings, may all the sufferings other sentient beings accumulated be purified by these, so that you're not only cleansing your negative deeds through this suffering, you're also cleansing the sufferings of the countless sentient beings. So it's the suffering itself has become very powerful, and that's how we really take the suffering into path. And then also when you engage, when you say experiencing an illness, and you can practice the giving and giving and taking, the exchanging of the sufferings of other sentient beings with your happiness. You really give away all the positive and the virtuous merits you have. You really give them to the sentient beings. And when you breathe in, you're taking away their sufferings into you. And so this, like a suffering that you're going through, really become the key, if you like, a tool or key asset to purifying so much negative deeds of yourself and other sentient beings. And so it's really create this amazing merits and so on. You can do the same thing, not only just suffering, you can do this with afflictions. When you're going through, say, anger, in a kind of very disturbing emotional experience, you can do exactly the same thing. Now I'm experiencing this anger, and I pray that all the negative deeds that I have done in the past may be burned by experiencing this anger. You do the same thing. All the sufferings of the other sentient beings, all the causes the sentient beings created for anger, be burned or be consumed by this experience. And you can do the same thing for desire and attachment. When you're really going through a strong desire, and you say, may this desire become the causes that consumes all the, the negative deeds accumulated by myself and other sentient beings. And it's so that while experiencing this desire, you're really doing these amazing practices to turn this into your path, turn this into a really pure practice. So that's where the practice in patience is really powerful practices. Then the next one is the chilling, is him really taking the hardship for the practice of the Dharma. This is the second subsection of practice in patience.
아침에 드디어 자원을 가르쳐.
근데 음식 디순소 chilling is him. 왜 늘 지면에 서버치 chilling is him. 그냥 손부터 가려요. 디스는 로
네 당연히
디 시야타니. 네 달링 서버 근데 chilling is it chilling is him. 서버치. 근데 다가봐. 아니
어디 어디 자원이
이거 자원이 뒤에서 쉬는 분을 준주다 산대를 주거든. 다 싫을 때문에
다때네 다디게디 감계지제 감세데 자외 인구스기 자외 인구스는 대신 인구스야 돼. 근데 대신 인구스디 레글리 서버 감대신 인구스야 돼. 어디다 디 개버지 개버지 가서야지 디 제맛 파스페나 중요 바지기 나래지 노브르 바지나 노브티레다 다바르티 그이샤르지는 노브티 다바르티 파세 아니 디기 데디야 게임 그러바 어디나 시리다데 단다 감 개버지에서야디 디다 교도스 자 진바당 네 주름다 소발로버티 있잖아니 내견도스 감는 대신인 것들의 집지기 내견도스 파세 세두비리 아니 코야야 세두비 뭐 윤데디야야 걔네 아니 산지주 관두기야로 어때 this 개버치에서야디들이 다디 슈르시는데 야 준주제 최는 준주제 3대 라심 주바당 또도 싫어 대야 전주 계지 대야스 다 감계지들 전주 세네지게 감계지들 파지 두고는 준주 파지 아니 3대 파지 싫어 파지 소부디야 아니 감계버지 파지 전주 계지레스 다 최는 꾸인다 준주당 3대 라셈 주바당 다도 싫어 때마디 대야 전주 계지 전주 세나다 전주 개버지에서 감계버지 파지 단지 이게 감들이야 대신 인부스기여봐 어디 대한 교활을 준주제 지집에 3대제 최려도 넘지기 파지탕 숨부디야 전주디 감계 버치 계절이스
And then next verse 67. Please, can you recite the 67? So, as before, we talked about the generosity and the practice of patience. Basically, to really promote that the Buddha nature come, or these wonderful qualities of the mind, we have to engage. We have to engage in the practice of 6 perfections. By engaging in the practices of the 6 perfections, it's really triggering, promoting, and increasing the Buddha nature. The Kam is a nature or Buddha nature or the essence of the Buddhahood and so on. And so as we talked about in the previous discussions, that in our mind stream there is this like pure, the Buddha nature, the wonderful qualities in our mind, the wisdom. And we really promote this wonderful aspect of the mind through engaging the practice of six perfections. We talked about the practice of a patient and so on. And in this session, saying like the practice of patience and so on, the practicing in the diligence, the practicing in the diligence, and also in the samadhi, the practices of the samadhi or the meditative concentrations. These also really help us to promote that Buddha nature in our mind stream. And because while engaging in these practices, it's really basically purifying the stains, practicing in the diligence and the meditative samadhi. Really like the practice in generosity and so on. It's really kind of cleansing the stains in our mind stream. And as we cleanse the stains, then it promotes this Buddha nature aspect of the mind. And thus, we are getting closer to enlightenment.
tabdan chebe shirabdan ne juru jangbatan dobla nene yishi deus kam
이 시에 주무선 다도 시럽 땜바 됐어 줘봐. 이게 이 준주의 3대 시험이 시럽 거 시험이
알려와 다 시럽 퍼지세요. 시럽 퍼지디야 이 감기버지
근데 근데 감기버지 그래서
어다트 감기버지니 근데 퍼지 담봉한테 주디 라시네리 개버지 그래서研究그리 수능 저러봐 이게 수구주지기 감기 개버지게 또 시럽이 퍼지디기 주구주지기 뭐니고 저데 라시네리 개버지게 라시네리 야 제바다研究그리 개버지니 소니디 퍼지 담봉하고디 조디 라시네리 개버지니들이 그래서研究그리 시럽이 퍼진디 아니 라시네리 개버지게 주구주지로 지단데 강으로 주구주지 부비아리 수구주지 부비아리 퍼진 주구지 이내양 소치조를 붙여나 퍼진 담보가 붙이 수구주지 소치 시럽 퍼진디 주구주지 소치와 그래서 주구주지디 되게 라시네리 장용이야 수구주지디研究그리 장기야 공배디
So in the verse 67, also the Nagarjuna was advising us to practice the wisdom. He's saying that like the meditative concentration and practice in the diligence, which really promotes our Buddha nature, we also have to rely on the prajna, the wisdom, to really cherish the Buddha nature, and thus enabling us to attain enlightenment. And I talked before that when we are practicing the six perfections, and the first to the fifth perfection, from generosity to the samadhi practice, is really creating causes for our rupakaya, the Buddha form. And then practicing the prajna, the wisdom, creating the causes for the wisdom, and creating causes for dharmagaya. And so, in essence, the practice of the six perfections are really fulfilling all the causes to attain the enlightenment which have the element of both the Dharmakaya and Rupakaya. So in terms of the importance or the powerful, the practicing the prajna, the wisdom is more kind of powerful because it's attribute to all the causes of really tackling that grasping aspect of the mind. And whereas the first fifth perfection is really causes for creating the Rupakaya and the qualities of the Rupakaya. And so in the Buddha nature, or the nature of the enlightenment, there are two important elements. One is really this great, like merits, and the other is wisdom. So the first and fifth is more like belonging to generating the merits, and the sixth is generating the wisdom. So that's the difference between these two sets of the in practicing practicing the courses for Rupakaya and practicing courses for Dharmakaya.
Then, Tabda Shirip, Tabda Jebe, Shirip Dang, Yanum Nature Chambatan, Dobla Nene, Yishiti, come get Jebe, Chushibus. That come get with Chibi Chutri, Paji Juya, Paji Juinan, Tabgig Pajins, Manamgi Pajin, Dobgi Pajin, Yishiki Pajin, Shiti Temper. Did she would be young? And it come give it to yes,
Can you read the verse to 68, please?
Skillful means, prayers of aspiration to purify, and mastery of strength to purify wisdom. These four will cause the potential to unfold.
So you know that when we talk about the perfections, we say 6 perfections and then the 10 perfections. So we just gone through the 6 perfections, and then if you add these 4, then it's become the 10th perfection. And so here saying that to really trigger the potential for the Buddha nature to come, we also have to practice on the skillful means. That's maybe the 7th perfections, and then the prayers of the aspirations. And that's the 8th perfection, and then the mastery of the strength, which is the 9th perfection, and the resulting the wisdom, and this is the 10th perfection. So on top of the 6 perfections, we also have to practice these 4 perfections to really unfold this Buddha nature from our mind stream. So can you say that from our?
That in Paji Judy Sajuli Jani, Satam because Chimbe Pajing in Yamne Habat. Habat Satambuni, Sanyavane shooting the Pajing in Yamne Haba. Sumbala Seva Pajing Yamne Haba. Nishivala Judy Pajing, Mavala, something Pajing, Satubala, Sherry Pajing, Yamne Haba. Inside Timbala, maybe Tagi Pajing, Yamne Haba. Near Javala, ne Karasule. Maramdi Pajing, Yamne Haba. Google Dodge Pajing, Yamne Haba. Sajuve Ishila, Nishi Pajing, Yamne Haba to us, J. Then Yamne Zochavajanet, Sajuli Chani, Pajijuti, or the Tirita join Neg of Zochavaraj. Come Choyagi. Kuba Zochigres, Satan Benedus, Chile Pai, Pajing, Yamel, Hapareva. In I see shooting the Pajang, Yamel Hapatoriama. That was to see a victory. What is it? That's a Juliana. Paji Judy Sajuliana.
So when we talk about the 10 perfections, which we explained just now, and when we think about these 10 perfections and try to apply this to the different stage or the boomings, is that the word you used, right? Boomings? So the 10 boomings, and you can apply these 10 perfections to the 10 boomings, starting corresponding with their numbers, starting from the first booming with the practice in generosity, second booming practicing discipline, third booming practicing patience, fourth booming practicing the diligence, fifth booming practicing samadhi, and the sixth booming practicing the perfection, and the seventh booming practicing the skillful means, eighth the power of aspiration, nine the engaging in the strength, mastering the strength, 10th mastering the wisdom. And so each of the perfection practices, it becomes like a important step for the practice in the next one. To really have a successful practices of the discipline, you have to first engage in the practice of a generosity. So they're kind of the sequences is really important, and the sequences have the element of not exactly, but the element of cause and effect. Like the successful practices of the generosity, be a condition or causes for a successful practices of the discipline. And so these kind of the 10 the perfections, you have to practice in the proper sequence to really across the corresponding the boomings. To really reach to the second booming, you have to go through the first booming. They're like a step. Likewise, if I repeat myself, and to engage in the proper practices of the second step, or the practicing a discipline, you have to practice the generosity. And this importance of the steps, the orders, are really something we should be careful or be mindful.
다들 감 제발 때는 자주 주디 감 제발 때는 다 자주 주디 다 자주 주디 자주 sem차 미자시 마와 멤버 마와티 자주 sember 마중화를 추기분이 중마인 스타디기 디 감개발 때니 자주 주디 어다디 단대디 자어디 시기
여러분 시간 지시라고 보면서 또 당고디가 나서디 감개발 쳐야 봐. 감개발 쳐야 되려 더진 주체. 이게 사주를 자주 세요 봐. 또 단대디 감개발
제가 때니 다 자주 주체로 봐. 자주 산지 주고 주지. 자주 생겼다 다 주고 줘야지.
또 단대디 주고 줘야 돼.
네, 주고 주지. 될 때니 시도 감개발 때니 나 주고 주지 근데 예스나.
So we talked about how do we promote the Buddha nature by practicing 10 perfections, and the primary emphasis in the first one is really creating the necessary causes for Rupakaya, and then from verse 69 it's talking about creating the necessary causes for generating the Dharmakaya. Chengju is also the wrong. And so can you please read verse 69?
There are some who speak such dire words, but were there no bodhisattvas to develop, the Dharmakaya would be out of reach.
전주스는 참 자시 다디 가르스네 전주 셈발라 미그 마그 베체 차미제브레 차미제와르스도 베체나 전주 토바도 나와니스 아니 전주 셈발라다 전주 토발라 가리고르데스는 전주 셈발라 그거 제국이야리스 전주 셈발라 차 제국이야리스 이 마제는 전주 토바도 마와티니 냠바 나와라 마와티스 아니 전주주가 남던 가와 마와리스 그래서 냠바 마와티 전주 셈바 마중원의 취직군이 주거 상계 미조됐다 전주 셈바 마에는 주거 상계 직구반테 토야야 말이스 그래서는 메토디다 금해발은 대부인 거야 말이스 그래서 전주 셈바데 상계 전주 셈발레 좀 니지선데 니송메로다 전주 셈니 계산은 기조스 다 상계 전주 셈발레 총리스 상계 그는 총리 전주 셈발레 총리스 저서 전주 셈발라 마귀바당 차메제바르 아니 상계 토는 되버티다 가와리 가와마와리 비에서 전주 토는 되나 아니 전주 셈발라 그거지 아니 제국이야리스 딘내제는 제주 두야다 아니 가와리 저 돼야지 제주도 아니 내가 지야지 아니 제주 두야고 내가 지야지 가와지제 내가 지야들 때는 제주 두야 말이 돼야지 제주 되버리스 제사 띵인 가와 인상 다디 지금 말이스 아니 어제 단다티 단다티
So in verse 69, basically it's advising us to really engage in corresponding causes. On the other hand, it's advising us not to engage in a contradictory approach, because the contradictory doesn't fulfill a corresponding result. And so, for example, saying if you desire for Buddha nature or enlightenment, you really have to respect the bodhisattvas. Because if you really disrespect and do contradictory to the bodhisattvas, this will not lead to attaining enlightenment. As Nagarjuna mentions in other sutras, I think it is entry to the middle way. Nagarjuna said that Buddha is a result of a bodhisattvas. Engaging in the practices of the bodhisattva leads to full enlightenment. And so if you really abandon the bodhisattvas and its deeds, then you cannot attain enlightenment and be contradictory. And therefore, you really, if you wish and aspire for Buddhahood, you really practice and respect the bodhisattvas. So that's advice we're getting here.
어디네 년주 상계 되는 통하기에서 년주기 전주다 라제기 전주니 통하는 때는 년주 상계 되는 통하기 통화 전주 선발에 충분히 그래서 다 전주 선발이 아니 전주 순간이 네 주구 전주 선발이 전주가 셈다 전주 선발이 전주 순간 상계기 전주 년주기 전주 라제기 전주 탕제기다 자와를 지르바 뒤에서 아니 전주 토벌도 전주 선발은 미국 바다나 전주 선발은 참에 제바지 제 인제 제바팅 가와리 세상 아니 뒤 전주 주디 전주 선발에 배 제대 수제 전주 선발들 그거지 전주 선발에 인제 수제니 전주 부부리스 다 전주 부단디 감개발 때는 감개지 될 때는 전주 부단디 전주 선발을 시드네 그보다는 전주 선발 때 아니 그래서 그래 어디에 제니야 또 우리 팀나제는 전주 선발 때 전주 순간이 배 되게 자와롭지
So, as I mentioned, if we desire for enlightenment, then we have to practice the Bodhisattva, Bodhicitta, and we have to respect the Bodhisattvas. Why? This is because the Bodhisattvas are really like the basis for all the Buddhahood, the full enlightenment. And one can also say the Bodhisattvas and the Bodhicitta are the causes of the three enlightenment. For example, the Aryas, the hearers, and the solitary realizers are a result of Buddha's teaching. The Buddha Shakyamuni teach so that you attain the hearer the status, or you kind of attend the solitary realizer status through teaching of a Buddha Shakyamuni. And the Buddha Shakyamuni is a result of practicing bodhicitta, engaging in the deeds of bodhisattva. So the bodhicitta and the bodhisattvas are the causes for all type of liberations and enlightenment. Because of that, wonderful, the happiness is sustained because that sentient beings attain benefit. And because of this kind of really benefit, we have to really respect the teachings of bodhicitta. We have to respect and the bodhisattvas who follow this bodhicitta teaching. And do we need a 10 minutes break or something? So can we have a 10 minutes break because and we resume maybe quarter to 12.
Yeah.
And the Churchill over
절대는 지기야.
Do you have a QA session at the end of every teaching? Churchill condition guide.
야용이 있잖아요. 되게 진짜. 저걸 하면 되잖아요.
From just either we can have the QA at the beginning of the next session or at the end of the day. What do you prefer?
What do you say?
Maybe end of the day. And to do, should share us the American should do the Churchill.
전주 선발을 제대적으로 해야 되더라.
Knowledge.
다들 전주 선발 다들 빼들 부싱사도 라당강 가라 장발 되버디 부싱사도 매반이 가라 좋아 여러마인 부싱사도 강수 순에 여러 내시 두갈래 부름 카라 따는니 되게 좋아 쉐바디 스타티 베난 부신기 사벨 마가바체 아니 까라세야티 다 제마가르다 봐 제마가르 아니 장을 되버디 그 부신디르바 부신메나 가라 요야 메르바 부신의 당부제 아니 가르베 되냐티 되버디 땅 가와르바 어디 이상 때 부신 사빈 라 당와 당강스 부신게 사빈 라 당부 제가 강이 버디 가라 장바는 되버디 부신 사빈 멤버 다디 부신게 사빈 라 당버지 메가버지 아니 가르드 제가 가르드 녀디 아니 디 요야 메버리스 부신게 사빈 메바니 가라 중앙 줄마이스 부신게 사빈 메나 가르디 야 마리스 부신 사빈 강송에스 부신게 사빈 디송교 야부체 텔레제제 야부체서는 녀른네시 두발레 부름 가르다나미 되네 이 송교 야부체서는 아니 텔레테니타 가라세야 디우브리세야 텔레초에 들어왔다르스 다디레데 부신게 사빈 마당신 가라산 되버티니 되버티니 부시 사빈 메바 가르미주에소스 디디마리스체 부시 사빈 슈 마스바르 송신 장발레스 부신게 사빈디 야부제 슈메서버제 지기 순교 야부지 제수는 아니 이랬더니 부름다 아니 가라당 달라수배 중화다르스 다다세디 가리나 중화다르 전주그 셈 니르럽도 숨니 녀런네 시투발레 아니 자중게 또 산이다 자주그 셈스야 드럽도 숨시 다디 된다디 간지 이게 수자소 어디다 전 배디 부신게 사빈 당부체 아니 가라제바 되버디 가와리스 그래서는 부신게 사빈 메나 가라주야 말이스 아니 가라 두고도나 아니 부신게 사빈들 숨주 야부쳐 다디 배들이 다스 란 전주 숨부터 산계기 전주 란계기 전주 인도기 전주 숨부터 되나 아니 전주 무슨 제대야 버지 그래서 디 배들이 다 배들 된다지
Next is we're going to read from verse 70 and 71.
One throws away the seed of sugar cane and wants to taste the sweetness of its yield, without not eating vanilla sugar at all. Someone buys seed from sugar cane, and they well and works to make them grow across the seed of sugar in our hearts, just as those that come out like this.
And so from now on, Nagarjuna is giving us the analogy, examples, illustrations. And he basically saying that those people who desire for sugar and then still not really cultivating the necessary seeds, it's of course wouldn't work. If you desire for sugar, then you really have to work with a sugar cane. You have to provide the necessary the causes and the supporting conditions. You really maintain the sugar cane crop. You really take good care of your crop and the field. And if you do everything properly, then it will yield a wonderful sugar cane, resulting you can create sugar out of that. So likewise, if we wanted to attain the enlightenment, realize liberation, or attain the status of a hero, we really have to cultivate in the bodhicitta. We really have to engage in the practices and maintaining good qualities of bodhicitta practices. And so the bodhicitta is really like the sugarcane crop. and from that, yielding the sugar and other sweet commodities. So on the other hand, if we do not take good care of a bodhicitta, and then nothing will come out. Without the practices of a bodhicitta, you wouldn't, attain enlightenment, and there would not be a solitary realizer, and there would not be the hearers. Why? Because the hearers and the solitary realizers come out of Buddha's teaching, and the Buddha come out of a practice of bodhicitta. So it's basically saying, in essence, the practices of the bodhicitta is really important. It's a link to so many other wonderful results. And therefore, taking good care of bodhicitta is really like maintaining good crops, the sugarcane crops. And when you maintain and really take good care of your sugarcane crop, and then it will yield sugar and other produces.
다드네 장심 숨을 담바디 전주 심 숨을 담바스 다 전주 심스 제제제고레스 담바디 다디 자디 제대로 살리 사변서 신배 숨을 제바들 지신 티조 매남라 잠바남 숨을 제스 다디 지다르다 살류 사변 살류스는 제레스게 제게 사변들 살류 사변스게 살루세티 제제 이 사변라 단 제제는 살류 사변을 제제지고를 봐 신변은 기사변 살류 사변을 제제지니까 지기야를 봐 제가 살류 사변서 신배 숨을 제받다라서 신변남기 살류 사변들을 제제야 붙이니 아니 제반나신 대신 티조 매남라 템바남기 숨을 대신 티바초스네 티바치모들 티바초스데 데라 메바티 템바남기 숨을 제바레스 템바남시야지 상제대 전주 셈바 남기 템바남시야지 템바남시야지 상제대 전주 셈바 남기 숨을 제바레스 어디를 숨겨 지기야리스 답인 뱉으면 사이드에 조선반은 숨을 제도 숨을 제바 이노스 어디들이 다디 상기전 조선반은 숨을 제도 그래서 티베침불로 매버티 매버티 자와를 붙이려다 전주심스럽디리 다 티진을 매버티 전주심 다 티바침불을 매버티 아니 전주 상계도 전주심 만한기 아니 숨주 추시 제기야리스 다 그래서는 제부 상계 유고마도 기야르바 뒤에서는 매버티 네 전주심티 세네디리 전주심티
And next, can you please read verse 73?
Just as seeds of rice and other plants created by the farmer prepare afterwards to make the greatest journey created by the guide.
In this verse, Nagarjuna is advising us how to take great care of our the bodhicitta mind, the bodhicitta. And so he's saying, like the rice farmers, really taking great deal of effort to really protect and grow rice crop. And the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas should really engage with great care about cherishing the bodhicitta mind. And here, the aspirant in the line 3 is talking about the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. The aspirant referring to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, who really creates great causes and yield great result, should really take great care of bodhicitta. Because of all the kind of vehicles, the Mahayana vehicle is considered the most precious, the most powerful one. And it's only realized through the practice of bodhicitta. And then who practices of the Mahayana? The Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And what do? They practice bodhicitta, and therefore protecting, cherishing, and taking care of a bodhicitta is really as important as for the farmers who purely live on rice field. And the only way you can really protect, grow produces is you really have to invest and take great care of your rice crop. Like these aspirants, such as Bodhisattvas and Buddhas, who really desire for enlightenment, take great care of bodhicitta, like that of the rice field farmers who are taking good care of their crop. And so in the verse 73, Nagarjuna is advising how do we take care of our the bodhicitta mind. And because bodhicitta mind, as I explained to you before, is really very important. It is really the basis of all types of enlightenment and liberation. Bodhicitta I mentioned is like become the almost like a causes of a Buddha, and who really leads the solitary realizers and hearers to liberation. And so without bodhicitta, almost any other type of enlightenment is not possible. And so using this analogy of the rice crop farmers, we really there, because the rice growers take a great deal of care for the field, and like that we have to take care of our bodhicitta in a very kind of thorough way.
Oh, that come give a chingy, that come give a chatty, come this, so pretty, come give a chatty, come get it to Juiva. That is, that come give a chitty, that and the come give a chitty, and it's our dignity.
지주스는 감 개버 치단.
다 개버 치단디 답대 있네 실도. 다지네. 아바 돌 때부터 개버 치버스. 다 감 개버 치주디라. 근데 सब증 아버지 감 개버 치주디라. 감 개버 치주디는 돌 때부터 개버 치버니 제스네. 담보시 다 돌때 지다른 말은 줍실라 나와 중세 통하다를 대신 뒤져 면함라 산계군이 중세 통 다디 말은 줍시디다 슈쿠디인스 말은 배나 말은 줍시디 이슈쿠 나와 중세 통하다를 ni shukule dawati ane te seyarwa nanga tinen te tongbarwa
장군의 주십도서 봐.
네 말이 다와마 망무스네 ni shukula ni shunanga nin가데
네,
다와잖아 야말와 ni shukune는 다와 중세 지야르와
저 주루는 29부터 승니다. 마무스는 마도스.
마무스들이 다 주루네리.
주루는 29부.
어디 이제는 마무스 다다와 중세 통하다 대신 뒤져라면 남 산계군의 중세도 다 대신도 뒤바쳐 저를 매배 매배 남라 산계기 중세 통 메바디 메바 제바다 메주가 사세데 저놈다 저놈이 붙이는 메주가 사세야 다 디갑수 티바침불 메바디 산지 메바 중세 스타페나 장심디 메베주바 장심 조남반함라스 다지 메주가 사이데 조남다 총님이가 yar때 단테 조남기네가수 산게 주부 중세 통하디 세나 중세 다 주부 통세디 동반이 그때 다 조남기네가수 동반이라 세나 중세 통반이지 디 세나 중세 통반이지 딘지 세와 나와 인산 제사다디 디 망의 니슈kul라 다와 중세 여봐 디나시 티베침 조남기 내가서 아니 매주가 사 조남기 내가서 아니 동반이라 세나 중세 템버리스 어디 디 중세 전세 다디 단데디 자와디
여보세요. 이 브랜드 매버죠 봐. 이날야 매버디 지금
추구를 매버디지
추구를 매버서 마치 추구를 때에서 지금 당나라 때에서 유네를 동분이 세나데 된 디스보르.
세나 템버스
세나
동반이 또버디 마야리 손음네 야르바
말봐.
아니 세나디 전지게 세나 트야디 조남네 지야지
안디 조남디 매버
다 디네가 수다 전주들 매버지 매버 야르바 디네 매버디 디네야 사담분에 강물을 야리 디네야 매버디 세나 중세 템바 다와디 니슈구유드는 다와 중세 지야르바
예.
디나시 매버디 니가르스그레 세나 중세 템바디샤 디네 체직네 전이야 다와디 살이야자 사당분에 진네 세나트 전지든 간절의 세나
그디 인도다 마치 나란도 매버세도 저도 가서라 다지 개부 친구들 매버대에 유협이 내래. 그러니까 세븐이 저구유 다가는데 텍스트 당다 지금 동분이야 세나도 레오 디스.
어디 동분이를 세나도 들리디리
레디오 디스 매버 유상.
디단데 근데 조랑기는 거 진짜
됐어요. 어디 마셔야 된다. So, can you read verse 74, please?
Psalm 14, for aspirants who wish to make a great journey,
So, in this verse, basically now, the Nagarjuna is talking about how do we really promote the Buddha nature. What are the ways we can promote Buddha nature by using some kind of examples and illustrators. And like a waning moon, the aspirant, meaning the people who aspire in Mahayana teachings, they can really see at a kind of intellectual level, not like realized emptiness. Someone who really understood emptiness, not really understood, it's or someone who had an overview of the emptiness. They can already start seeing the path. So when you apply this to the the path, the first one is a jolam, the preparatory path. And so someone who really took the bodhicitta vow, who aspire for the Mahayana precept and so on, they already start seeing what is the path look like. accumulation, yes. Path of accumulation, the first one, meaning that we took the bodhicitta vow and entered path. And it's just like on the 29th day, it's not absolutely absence of the moon. You know, they're kind of barely like a image or kind of the blur image of a moon. It's not like totally blocked, but you can still see some kind of lines of the moon like that. Once you entered in the path of accumulation, you start seeing the, if you like, the Buddha nature. So just like a waning moon, once you took the bodhicitta vow, you started practicing, you already started seeing what is the enlightenment look like. And so he's using this moon, waning moon, as an example. He's using the stage of the moon's example of how clear we see enlightenment. So at the very beginning, once you enter the Mahayana teachings, and your kind of vision of enlightenment looks like the 29th day. Of course, we're talking about the Tibetan calendar, or the lunar calendar. The 29th, you have to kind of really thin the image of a moon, and on the 30th, which is say the absence of the moon, there's no moon at all. And then from the first day, there is kind of crescent increasing, waxing, right? The word waxing from waxing from the first day.
대신 티바 친구 장샘 전함반남기 림기 티바 중세 방방내베 그때 전함기는 그 수티가 방방야마 이내 동반이제 동반이라 세나 중세 중계여 봐 산지 구 중시 통스 다 중시 통세 동반이라 세나 중세 중계 단데네 다와 체직내 전에 정바들 다디 가르쳐디 앞에니 사담비네 것수 방제 중세 번기야 통바싱에 번기야 네 사담분이 주고 봐도 고테 고바디 림기 틈네 아니 산게 뒤점바 세종은 니가티 다와 냐간 그러봐 반체 터다세 아니 죽은 지기야 봐 뒤에서는 뒤자버리 져서 다 림기세 이제 양을 다 지들 채배 나와라 다 던지디 뒤봐 망을 지주시대 자리인가 그래서 저기
지대로 망을 주실라 다와 중세 통하다.
디지 디조 라면 라인 산제군이 중세 통스제 다디디 단다디 조람을 잘 망을 주시디 중시부터 계획제 디디 다와 중세 지원하시 조랑기 내가수 동반이다 죽을라 세나 중세 전부레스제 디제 다드네 지달 세변 다와라 계지 개버를 통해서 디신사라 슈나라 다와 지달 세변 다와디 계지당 세변지 다와디다 사담불을 차 디신사라 슈나라 네 제지네 저정보디야스 예진디 아니 림기 앞이거든 제지네 니 세변이 숨쉬나 이게 아니야 다 가져디야 림기 페네 다 정행인가 냐근기여 봐 어다디 내야 정은 면체디 장주심에 살았자 중앙의 산지기 살자 어디 림기 표와 통스 베난다와 아랑기 모올라 제가 메이장 양은 다와라 미는 지지를 통하다라 사담부 라수베 sembanamji jang chuju mola teba meja chugu rimdi pewa suru tongdi deya lo pewa yidi chugu pewa ne mayi na chidar chungen dawa nyawa soba juwa da deshin sayi tardu na chuju kuzo shi cha kawada dire da dire sha da dine dawa 양을 지칭해 아니 중에 받들어 아니 지까지디 림지야 표현하시 아니 가르소리 누구 남달 차지 지바림 지세는 고대 사담부되는 거 군다반데 고대스니 도피에 되는 산이번에 전에 디바디리 세베세죠 방바리를 또 아니 사인기가 투연데 디바 충충 세베 방바스도게 되게 디바 담 시리 방바스 저바기 어디 자리
디는 양가 단도 상계에서 줘봐 상계도 나랑도 디 탑탐제 기만 말봐 탐제 기만
다와 중앙을 잘 다와 중앙을 야가마 되지 상계
스타단드디 점수익이 자는 동안 라무가 직자는 저 람내 제 야직 자는 동안 그래서 당군에 사주부터 직자는 동안
조람네 다 조람디 가지고리
조람 주거체
이 망을 체주불 자송아
로스
그 망을 체주불은 다 체지야
이 조람체
다티 조람체 디데 가르스 조람디 네거스 동반이가 세나 중세 tumban이자
로스
다체 징네 제네 사 당분에 야자 제 징네 제 니 중앙 받을 사 당분에 야자
최종의 대사 주부체
야
최직의 주입시부터야
제 세비 중앙에 다 상계가 사 레트 그러봐
사주 산주고
다 디바르들 사 당분에 사 당부 신이바 숨바 시바 주거봐 사 주거체 주지바데 상계가 사르바
주집 상계사
주지바데 딘사 디바르들 다와야 페주야 영어도 페야 되다 사 당분에 사를 매 그래서 되자지다 매지 진이야 시야 페주도 이 디아 페주도 그래서 사주부터 조인 좀 사주부터 조인 다와 세베주는 집에지 이 바르들 방법만 붙어야 해 고람 걸 구스니까 공부하고 붙여야지 중중중중중중 방제들 나도 수디 사 주변에 사 당분에 구매받자 주매받자
숨숨자고
알라
사레리가 아니야 숨숨자고
사지리 사레리 강도 숨숨이야 말이야
충분히 참고서나
나대디 그냥 골고치 좀 골고디 나대 사레를 잡 골고디 사레 그냥 알레
사 당골레 충분히 참고서 당고 없어 사 당고
다사담 반제들 시도 중제 중제 전부 숨체 당고 네 중들이야 중딩 숨체 딩들은 딩기 딩기 전부 전부들이야 전부 딩 전부 숨체 고들이 다티사 줄이야지.
사줄이야. 사레레 인데 저도.
네.
So here in this session, basically using the illustration of the stage of the moon, Nagarjuna is showing us our progress in Buddha nature, and it's a little bit condensed. Basically, when Rinpoche explains, and he uses the 5 paths, he uses the 10 bhumis, and then he uses a different kind of a stage of the progress to really show where our progress are in terms of applying this illustration. So in the most kind of a simple way of explaining, Nagarjuna uses say that if you look at the moon, and if you look at the development of the moon, meaning waning and waxing, and if you look at the waning stage of the moon, let's pick up 29th day, and this is the kind of the last moment of the moon totally evolving into disappearances, right? And for the aspirant of the Bodhicitta or the Mahayana teachings, such as us, like who entered the Mahayana path, you are on the 29th. Your progress is like the moon on the 29th day of lunar calendar, in which it's not the total absence of the moon. You have kind of a bare kind of image. And likewise, once you become the aspirant of a bodhicitta, your realization is you already had an understanding about the Dharmakaya. And so because of that, you kind of, if you equal that to your path, it's a part of application, right? The Jorlam, part of application, when you have the 4 paths.
First is Tonglam and Toklam.
The Jorlam, we're talking about Jorlam, the second.
Preparation.
Preparation, yeah, that's part of preparation, the Jorlam. And so we already on the path of preparation, in which we have a general understanding about emptiness. And because we have the general understanding of the emptiness, we see what is, Dharma kayas look like. And this is, if you apply that kind of to an example that Nagarjuna gives, the moon is like on the 29th day. There is a barely a kind of a visible moon. So we kind of start seeing what enlightenment look like. This is where we are. And then if you continue, and if you look at the waxing stage of the moon from the lunar, again, if you look at the lunar calendar, from day 1 to day 15, it's kind of a waxing every day. And this can be use example of a bhumis. The first day of the waxing lunar stage, it's like the first bhumi. Then you get the second bhumi, the second day, and so on. And as you progress, and the full moon, which is on the 15th day, is like the 10th bhumi, in which you really totally ceased all the kind of the afflictions and so on, and you basically attend the cessation. If you look these scenarios, and while Nagarjuna is talking about using the example of a moon to really looking at our progress, and we can apply this, Rinpoche is saying the 10 paths. First path, the bhumi, the 10 bhumis. And then you can go deeper by applying this to the 5 paths. Tonglam, Jolam, Cholam, and so on. And so these are kind of basically, in essence, a number of ways we can really observe our progress. In this sense, of course, Nagarjuna uses this stage of the moon to see where we are in terms of our progress. And then if you talk about the 10 bhumis, also for the 10 bhumis, they're divided by the small stage, then the middle, it's like a middle stage, and then the advanced stage. And each kind of sections of the bhumi divided into these 3 subsections as well. But it's a little bit complicated, overwhelming now. We just use that lunar calendar of the waning and the waxing moon to really apply to the bhumins. That maybe it's a little bit easier to see the progress. So,
Yeah.
Can I ask a question now?
sure.
Yeah.
No. Sure.
First question. When the Rinpoche said around the 29th, the light of the moon is very visible. Right? And is that called enlightenment? Can we call that an enlightenment?
Okay,
First
I'll
one.
ask him. Sure.
And then we progress. Day 1, day 2, day 3, until day 15. Day 15 is complete, enlightenment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
When we progress,
Yes.
we see the light more and more. Does it indicate when you do your meditation, you see the light? What does that mean? By seeing the light more and more. Does it mean you see the light in your meditation more and more? That's another question.
I'll ask him.
Okay. Now, the third question.
Okay.
Now, this is obviously a path of graduate progress and graduate enlightenment. Are there degrees of enlightenment? Are there degrees, extents, different degrees of enlightenment? Because you progress. Right. You see the light more and more. Does it mean that your enlightenment is more and more? Now, this is very important because in Zen Buddhism, you have sudden enlightenment. Suddenly you get it. And this is graduate. And it's also, this indicates to me this is better. Indicate to him, the graduate path is better. And we like it.
Is it better or?
It's
That's
better,
your
yes.
question.
Right.
Okay.
This
그러니까 좋았음이었어. 좋았음데 단다 르무시기 다 단데디 나란도 망무에 체변이 있어군인가 나와 통하는 저 봐. 두두자 말지 다 동번이 세난지 다 동번이 튼지지. 네 통하는 저 봐. 디는 칸도 혼자 돼서도 다디 상계 고반을 돼.
말이
로스.
일단은 전함신이 들감기나네 매주그 사시 전함
로스.
전함도 전함이기는 전함기네 그래서
디 좋아 당고 인스. 지원이부터야 당아란도 지금 세 양문 세부지네 세부주영어부터야 당아란도 지금 세지도 쳇고 봐. 그래서 당고 산이부 사스무스고 봐. 디인도도 디 관계도자만 아란도 세지 통도 됐고 그래서. 됐고 말 봐.
아니야 전에 방제 뭐 여러 방제 뭐 있으네 방제 차지 더는 기내가 방제 차지 방제 있네 고랑들 고랑 골구야 이게 아니 골구가 방제 치림네 방제야래 방제 치워 그나 말한지 둘로 추지 좀 지금 라파팅을 다 두고가 근데 지금 참고지 이한 싫어 뒤쪽으로 봐 어디 제가 라파도스 통영 내겠으네 되네 라바라부터스 되네 빵바 되네 산지 구간 통인데 빵바 용수도 저기야 동문이 무슨 통 맛에 방자 이 림바 시라바디게 림바 신도세 아니 산지 토이 구바 통이 좀 that's it.
When the Chua Sumba Jorba, Chua Sumba the Prange, Tangaranzo, the Satambusan, Yusa Sumba, the Shea into Samba, Chidanji, Tabatobia, the Prangana, Sharan the Shea, Lam, Jigjar, the Jigjar, Jikarim, but Jig, Zimgu, the Jigjas near Jorba. The Tanda, Zimbuchi Suna, the Batin did it as Zimgu. Rimgu them, but Jigja, the Rimgu and the Rimgu, the death Yagas to Maranzo death, Treves to do this.
It is that the Rimgiva said the tiny Giaris, Jijava said, Jijava said the tiny Giari did it. Only Nempobi. Lamgi to dance, Shigaris. That the Jeremy Chig that the Rimgiva said, Jijava said. Banji Jijava said, you should Shigia, you should Tibet Banji Jijava Sene. Ji Lam Tumo Gi Machambache. Ni Gi Jamagoa, Nalatin, Jordania, Karsuri, Jeju Tumitilla, Jijava Ski. Narabatu, Narabatu. Oh, teacher, Jijava said it. Randu, Jerome Chig said it, Lam Tunga Gima Jambala, and Nalam, Tumbolish, the Sanji said it. Never cheat, Sanji, Nalam Shubala is Lam Tunga Gijamba. Tell him to pass it. Jijava said, I'm to move you jam over and Nala Shuni, and the Sanji Jukuva to Yaji, Jijava said. Yeah, that general chisanity can Kasuri. I'm to maybe give my Jambala is Nala Shuni. She did it never. But she did never say something to them.
So the three questions, we have the first question on which when you see the moon on 29th day during the waning, is that also enlightenment? That was a question, and Rinpoche said no. What it is, the moon on the 29th is barely visible. It's there, but we cannot see clearly. And this really equals to our practices. If you wanted to apply this to measuring our progress, we are almost like on the Jorlam, which is a part of a preparation, that stage. And in the part of preparation, what is because when we have to eventually look at our understanding of and the realization of the emptiness, really to look at where we are in terms of our progress. And in the part of the preparation, we basically have a general understanding of the emptiness, like at intellectual level, but we haven't realized it. And so we see what is the enlightenment look like. You kind of seeing that just like the 29th moon, it's there, it's barely visible. And so this is, to your question, if you say this is also enlightenment, it's not. We are kind of beginning to kind of seeing the enlightenment. So that's the first question. Second, you talked about this in your meditation when you see the light from the waxing from first day to 15th. Light is maybe not the correct word. What we're talking about here is we're talking about two things. We're talking about the stance, and then we're talking about the wisdoms or the clarity. And on the first bhumi, we already kind of started removing some of the gross level of stance, right? And then the stance can be divided in the most simplistic way, the gross and the subtle. So we started from the gross level, and as you kind of progress on the path, we started tackling from gross to more and more subtle, aware of a stance or afflictions. So the first bhumi, you are working within a gross level of a stance, The second bhumi maybe a little bit, less gross. And as you really remove the stands, one example is that you're wearing cloth, a white cloth, and you have a full of stands. As you start washing them, removing the stands on that clothes, every time you remove a kind of, I don't know how to measure, a certain kind of degree of stands, the white part is kind of shining more clearer and clearer. So you practice, say, the first bhumi, and you already kind of tackle some of the gross level of the stands. And having removed the gross level of the stands, the original qualities of the cloth, the white cloth, it become more brighter. And then you go to the second bhumi. And as you're reducing, so it shouldn't be like a light, but as you remove the stands, the original, the quality, the purity is shining out. So that's what I meant. And so you can, for example, measure your progress through looking at the 5 paths, like the part of application, Tonglam, part of preparation, then part of application, and so on. And you can see where we are, or how the Buddha and Bodhisattvas, done that. And so they're basically really looking at how you progress and what are other things you have to do to reach certain level. And to really reach to the second bhumi, you have to really first cross the first bhumi and so on. So that's my answer to your second question. And then the third question, you raised this issue about the gradual and certain enlightenment. For our kind of practices, we follow the Lama Tsongkhapa. And the Lama Tsongkhapa's take on these 2 paths, the certain path or the gradual path, slightly different from some of other schools, be it Tibetan Buddhist school or others. Usually in the teaching, when they describe about the path of a certain path and the gradual path, and the 2 major differences. And the school believes that a certain path is especially for advanced, intelligent, some like have this incredible genius or some kind of extraordinary person. This teaching is applied and taught to these extraordinary beings. And because of that, certain teachers say, I think you're an extraordinary student, therefore I'm going to teach you the certain path. And that has, there was that kind of history and historical account. But Lama Tsongkhapa's take on that is slightly different. Lama Tsongkhapa is saying that, yes, the certain path, he's mainly talking about the Vajrayana, which is the swift, the powerful path. But for the Vajrayana or the certain path in your language, saying Lama Tsongkhapa argues really artistically, saying to really practice that certain path of Vajrayana, the gradual path is become the foundation for that. So Lama Tsongkhapa does not believe that any individuals, advanced people who are, certainly become the candidate for the certain path. But he's saying, yes, the swift path is there, but really to do that, you really have to follow the gradual. In that way, basically you're cultivating the necessary conditions to become a practitioner of the Vajrayana or the certain path. And so Lama Tsongkhapa, really draw this very interesting articulate argument saying the gradual path is the prerequisite for certain practices. That also means everyone's a unique individual. We all can be the candidate or a recipient of the certain path if we follow the gradual path. So the certain path is not kind of exclusive for few people, but if you follow the gradual path, everyone can practice that. So that's the Lama Tsongkhapa's take on this. But we use, rather than certain path, in our language, we use the Vajrayana or the Tantrayana teaching, first the Sutrayana. And we are all qualified to practice Tantrayana if we practice the Sutrayana, the gradual path. So that's the take of Lama Tsongkhapa in this.
In your answer, he just mentioned
Sorry, can we do the,
Question.
yes, because we finished, we're going to take the question in the afternoon.
Okay.
During the after.
Because it's just a very short response to what you said. The remove of the stain. How do I know that I remove the stain of, and then we get the.
Can I, maybe, we
Yeah,
discuss that in the second part of the afternoon teaching?
yeah.
不然主要的听读，这其中推你不晓得吧？你听读怎么学出来的就怎么，专门生气的。
对对对。